And let's welcome our book reviewer today. It's Harry Broad. Kia ora, Harry. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine.
Now, Steve Hansen, The Legacy. I'm always a little wary when we get a rugby book. Although, interestingly, this isn't that sort of memoir penned by someone else. What is it that Gregor Paul has produced here?
Well, you're always a bit concerned about hagiography and biographies like this. A bit of a symbiotic relationship between sports writers and their famous folk. But I needn't have worried. He's given a very even-handed approach. Right up front, he raises the events of late 2009. Now, this was a time when Steve was assistant coach, and he always seemed a bit abrasive and aggressive if questioned, showing what Gregor Paul calls his slightly oafish side. I'm not sure about the word slightly. Hansen was at a press conference following an AB's defeat. He got riled at the tone of the questions and said, "They haven't built any statues to critics and wannabes yet," which Paul, a lovely description, said it was his attempt to be a human off-road vehicle who felt he could drive over anything if he revved his engine hard enough. But Hansen realised his approach of bullocking his way over the media wasn't working, and so he quietly signed up to some lessons from broadcaster Ian Fraser in media management. And to be fair, he did listen, and he gradually changed his approach and trying much more to incorporate his views into the narrative rather than wait to be a victim of it. So he became coach in 2012, and he set the goal of making the ABs the best rugby team ever, which was shooting for the stars, really. And his brash, uncompromising, some might say bullying approach to getting the players to improve was evident in his first Monday review of the match against Ireland. All Black halfback Aaron Smith recalls thinking, well, we thrashed the Irish by 30 points, so that should be fairly relaxed. But in fact, Hansen apparently highlighted all the mistakes, would ask a player what he was thinking about if he did something wrong, and so set a precedent for these sessions to become a mixture of drama and dread. This would appear to contradict every tenet of modern-day management, and it was an environment that ran on confrontation. But it seemed to work, and the players came to expect it and accept it as part of their path to self-improvement. And while he espoused the doctrine of coach-driven and player-led, there was no doubt who was the authoritarian boss. And yet there was much more to Hansen than this. He strongly believed that players were people first and rugby players second, and he tried to get to know them as much as possible so he could help them. His overriding mantra was team first, individual second, and God help anybody who got in the way of that. But he did have a compassionate side. When Aaron Smith got into compromising circumstances with a woman in the public toilets in Christchurch and got potted for it, he started to think his career would be over. He'd seen what Hansen was like on the warpath. But when he fronted up, Hansen was understanding, protective and empathetic to him, assuring him his career wasn't over and wanting him to become a better person. So that was also true of his more general approach. While he had an ironclad will to win, he wanted his players to be open and approachable and thank the public for their support. What a contrast when the All Blacks got run out of town in the England 1991 World Cup. They were described as having all the gaiety of gravediggers by the press. So Hansen was also very understanding of the difficulties faced by ABs first coming into the team environment. There'd always been a senior boys at the back of the bus mentality and a feeling that the new boys had to pay their dues and earn their spurs. And even Richie McCaw, who could justly claim to be probably the greatest All Black and whose success as captain was so much a key to Hansen's success as coach, was part of that mantra. It was something that Hansen wanted to change, especially as the new generation of All Blacks wanted to express their feelings and to reflect their vulnerabilities. So as Gregor Paul said, this was Hansen at his best. He also had a surprisingly good sense of humour, and he started to show this publicly. One time he came into a press conference and the reporters were playing a game of what sort of tree they resembled. When they asked Hansen, he replied quick as a flash, "Well, because people like me so much, I reckon I could be a puppler." Well, it's not bad. It's not hilarious, but it's not bad. Then, of course, we come to that dreadful day in October 2019 at the World Cup. The All Blacks had demolished Ireland and then were well beaten in the semi-finals, and deservedly so, by the English. Had the ABs become a victim of their own success? What was the coach's explanation? Hansen said, "We didn't lose because of the style of game we played. I believe we lost because deep, deep, deep down in the pit of our guts, we didn't have what England had." He was talking about a huge sense of adversity that the English team had had as a result of being bundled out even in the pool matches in the 2015 World Cup. So it was a sad way for Hansen to finish his career, but his record stands for itself. His team played 107 tests with a success rate of 89%. I think Paul sums up his reign as coach very well. Hansen went from being a coach the public neither liked nor particularly understood to one they trusted and enjoyed more than any other in the professional era. So Paul's done a grand job in this carefully crafted assessment of a controversial figure. He doesn't shy away from the challenges and criticisms of Hansen, but in the end he's truly done his subject justice. Sports books always sell well. They used to joke that Colin Meads could write a bestseller on how to dig in fence posts. But this one actually deserves to sell well on its own eloquent merits.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the review, Harry. Harry Broad has reviewed Steve Hansen, The Legacy. It's by Gregor Paul. It's published by HarperCollins New Zealand, and $50 the